Hello and welcome back to MTA Queensland's Engine Bay podcast. Today we're going to be unpacking some insights from the biggest automotive dealership expo event in the world, the NADA, that's National Automobile Dealers Association show, held in February in Las Vegas. Rod Camm, CEO of MTA Queensland, travelled to the event with the ADA study tour, and it's great to have him here today to chat about what he saw and learned.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Jonathan.
Welcome.
Listeners.
So before we dive into the details, can you give us a sense of scale? Just how big is the NAD event, and how important is it for dealers in the States?
So it's interesting. I was pretty much gobsmacked about the size of it. You know, I had a vision. I thought, you know, this is going to be big. If you have it in Vegas, it obviously attracts a few people. But wow, like the Las Vegas Convention Center is like nothing we've got here. It is just, it is multiple campus sites. It's very large, and every single exhibition hall was chock full of tech, you know, just on display. Lots and lots of people from across the industry. So all the OEMs were there, and I mean their representatives, a lot of the CEOs, over 200 Australian dealers were there. Lots of American and Canadian, and we met with Italy, you know, delegations from Italy and all other countries around the world. So, mate, it's huge, and I can see why now dealers, franchise dealers in Australia, see it as an important event.
Yeah.
Because not only do they get a chance to have a look at the technology that's coming here, but there's dealer meetings. You know, there's like we have a dealer council here. There's lots of franchise specific dealer meetings, and it's an active week. It was a very, very busy week. You know, lots of, you know, lunchtime meetings, dinners, just networking. But in answer to your question, massive.
Yeah.
It was just everywhere you went across Las Vegas, everyone had their delegation tags on. So we're a family for a week.
Excellent. So when you walk the show floor, as I understand, it's two massive sort of warehouse.
Multiple floors.
Oh, really? And multiple floors. Okay, well, even bigger than I thought then. So was there, amongst these exhibitors, was there a dominant theme this year? I'm guessing that cutting edge tech is always part of the show, but was there a dominant sort of theme this year?
Outside of all the normal supply stuff that you see at conventions, which is all really, really interesting and high quality, it's without question the dominant theme everywhere you went was the future of artificial intelligence, AI, right? And we all have a view of AI. We try and wordsmith documents and all that sort of the basic stuff.
Sure.
But this is far different from that. And my takeaway is that AI will have an impact far sooner and far more comprehensively than we expect. And as an example, I sat through a couple of demonstrations in terms of the role of an AI in the customer service journey. Right. And there were live demonstrations, and essentially if I call up my local dealership to book my car in, there's no human interface. It's a artificial intelligence, and there's no way you can pick up that voice is not human.
Wow.
And not only do they know who I am from my phone number, they know my car, so they'll talk about that car. They'll say, last time you're here for 20,000 kilometres, is this 30? But then they'll say, last time you were here, you were supposed to get your tyres done. Have you done them yet?
Right.
And then I'll say, oh, well, no, but when can I book it in? I'd like to book it in next Friday. Okay, let me get back to you. Okay, yep, there's a spot at 10 o'clock.
Right.
And this is all artificial, right? This is intelligence. And then it'll follow up before my car service to make sure I'm coming.
Right.
And it'll follow up after that in, say, 3 months' time and say, remember we said your brakes were wearing, are you? And you just sat there going, and I asked some questions just to say, look, come on. I'm just a bloke from Australia. Are you having a go at us, right? That's you behind there, isn't it? No, this is technology. So, and I spoke to American dealers who are using it.
Wow.
Right? And is it better than human? Of course not. But what it does, it gives you the comprehensive customer service package so they can focus their human minds on other elements of the business. And Obviously, AI also has a role to play in engine diagnostics and the like.
Sure.
So, but that customer service feature was my takeaway. And I went to a couple of different, I guess you'd call platform presentations,
Right.
and they were all equally impressive. And platforms like we experience in Australia, like Podium and the like, they were all there. They were all sort of showing what they do.
Yep.
I just walked away going, wow, we as an association need to get across this, because we as an association need to help our members make the right decisions in this space.
Yeah.
That was my biggest takeaway. Okay. It's not a convention like a motor show. There were no, there were lots of really cool cars there.
Sure.
But it wasn't, a mass of all the new cars coming. That's sort of more about what China does and the like. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on the subject of the AI, I mean, I had a look through the workshop list, what workshops were being held, and there were quite a number that had AI in the title. So I was struck with, and I'm not sure that I understand what this means, but leading with emotional intelligence in the AI age. I don't know, but AI age, that I get. The AI powered collision center, that's much more understandable.
Yep.
The age
Saw some of that.
Yeah. Okay. The age of AI search, how dealers stay visible and competitive. That one struck me as quite interesting as well. But with this AI powered collision center, that seemed to me to be quite an interesting one.
And some of that technology is in Australia already, right? Some of our members have already got this stuff, and that's really about, you drive your car through essentially an archway.
Yeah.
And it identifies all of the dents, and it's amazing, really? Right? And it's such good technology. It probably identifies dents that weren't in the accident, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's pretty crazy stuff, right? So we watch it, and then it'll it'll essentially do the estimate. Here's the parts you'll need, or here's the process you'll need.
Blimey.
Now that does need a human interface, I was saying, because there's still an expertise around that. But now that some of that technology is here already. But yeah, look, I believe with emerging technology, you have to have that cynical view. You have to sort of really test that what they're saying is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? We've all fallen for the latest gadget.
Of course.
That doesn't work. I've got plenty of them hidden away. But if it's a major investment, that proof of concept, that genuine testing is where it's at. And there were heaps of examples. Everyone talks about AI. It's not always actually AI. Sometimes it's data analytics and it's just that hardcore stuff. But technology is coming, and it's coming fast.
So what you saw around AI, genuinely practical now, some of it, or is it still kind of experimental?
No, there's plenty of experimental stuff about what's next.
Sure.
But it's now.
Yeah.
And it's same as, people that I know who are professors in universities used to say fully autonomous driving is 10 years away and always will be. Well, we're getting in taxis over there with no driver, and they're driving 100 kilometers an hour. And you sort of go, okay, so
this
is happening.
Was that legitimately just part of an everyday life in Vegas, or is this?
No, I actually got in one in Los Angeles, right?
Oh,
and they're everywhere.
Oh, okay.
And that is how you catch a taxi.
Wow.
You can still catch an Uber.
Sure.
But you can catch these other things that, and I've got videos I can share with you, and I'd never experienced it before. And I thought, all of the experiments I'd ever seen, they drive at about 5 kilometers an hour. No, these were driving full on speed, whatever the speed limit is, onto the freeways. Away you go, and you sort of go, because the steering wheel moves as it moves along. it'll sort of, and there's a person talking to you.
Yeah, right.
That sort of thing. It was quite intimidating the first time I did it.
Oh yes, I was going to ask.
Second time was fun.
Yeah.
Because you thought, okay, this is fun, and you can change course while you. Oh no, I want to go here instead. Or you can always hit a button saying I want to get out now.
Right.
I thought about that. So my point is, the technology explosion that's happening over there is coming here tomorrow, if you like. So you'd fully expect to see that autonomous cars in Sydney really soon.
Well, I think the cars thing is quite interesting because, like, say, you're intimidated when you first get in, but I imagine that by the third, fourth, fifth trip, this is how things work. Does that? That's something I think that most people can understand. But when you sort of project that into the AI for industry and business and all the other things, similar sort of feeling, do you think? It feels intimidating to start with, but pretty soon it's just going to be flowing through.
Well, see, our industry is fantastic. It's full of really practical, clever people.
Yeah.
and they understand. Like a lot of our businesses, everything from new franchise dealers to independent mechanical business are exploring the technology now.
Yeah.
But it is very new, and like cybercrime, there's a chance to be ripped off anywhere. So due diligence is everything.
Yeah.
It's about making sure you can apply it to your business. And I think the solutions aren't all there yet. Some of them are a little bit embryonic.
Yeah.
But certainly those customer service platforms, some of those diagnostic platforms were pretty impressive.
And is this, are these sort of solutions, AI solutions, aimed at, I mean, is it the big boys, the big dealerships? Are they, or is it for, small independents? Can anybody get in on this?
I think it's layered, right?
Yeah,
So the answer is yes, there's different packages.
Yeah.
Certainly when new technology arrives, it's normally quite expensive, so it's a bigger business thing.
Yeah.
But we saw them pitching at fast at micro businesses.
Wow.
I didn't see any, to be honest, of that customer service platform that was necessarily pitched at your 2-3 person mechanical business as an example.
Yeah.
But it would be a real surprise if it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm talking about new car franchises, but the same applies to agricultural businesses,
Yep.
motorcycles.
Okay. Looking beyond AI, I'm assuming that US dealerships face many of the same issues as their Australian counterparts, grappling with electrification, infrastructure, staffing, upskilling, and so on. Is that fair? And if it is,
so they're not grappling with China, right? No. So there's no competition from China, which of course we are absolutely, maybe even leading the world in terms of the diversification of our fleet, and more to come. So, and we can talk about Canada as well, but so they're not dealing with that. Electrification, I think, is confused over there because their president has sort of said, you know, all bets are off. We think it's all a waste of money. But OEMs are sort of committed now, so their manufacturing plants are doing it. You certainly saw a lot of Teslas there, the American version. You saw some other vehicles around. So they're there, but nowhere near to the extent as even here. Now, they're only 8% of sales here, so we're pretty soft. But so they see it as something that might come one day, but maybe not under this president.
Yeah.
But all the other issues are the same. Consolidation, margin calls, competing. Obviously, they drive vehicles that are much bigger. There are lots and lots of big trucks.
Yeah, sure.
So that's where the competition is. But apart from that, when you talk to them, you could close your eyes and be talking to an Australian franchise dealer.
Yeah.
And when you talk to the association, the NADA, so we had meetings with them right across that week in Vegas, but also in Washington in their head office, and issues are the same. You talk to the collision repairers, the issues are the same, the overreach of insurers and all those sorts of things. So our industry is genuinely international, and our issues are as well.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned there Canada. I know we're stepping away probably from the NADA thing a bit, but Canada sort of has embraced the idea of Chinese EVs as I believe in some way.
So they've incurred the wrath of the President of the United States again, which is not that hard to do. But I've got to be careful, or you won't be allowed back in. But so Canada did a deal with China to let Chinese vehicles in because China had imposed a tariff on their canola.
Yes. And
devastating impact to the western provinces of Canada. So the deal was let X number of cars in. I think it was 49,000 or something. And the tariffs would go. So they did that deal, and then of course the USA reacted. It's a smart deal from Canada, but they have no understanding, exposure to what's coming.
Yeah.
Right? They don't understand that just culturally, it's different. Culturally, that contract you have for your dealership might not mean anything.
Yeah.
And they don't accept that. But, James Vortman and people like myself and my colleague Peter Jones from the VACC, we just kept emphasising, no, it's culturally different. We're not criticising it, but it's different. So be prepared. And we didn't understand how Canada, if it is a cap, I think it's 49,000, it's a pretty low number.
Yeah.
How do you stop that? So they're cheap. They're pretty good cars. We emphasise that there's nothing wrong with these cars.
Sure. They're
cheaper. So if you're the 50,000th consumer in Canada and you miss out, how do you manage that? Like I think once they open the door, they'll open the door.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting what you say there because you get I get the sense that in North America anyway, perhaps Australia is viewed as the sort of we should be asking the Australians, but
Yeah.
how this EV thing's all going to work
As
out.
soon as they hear our accent, we denied we had an accent, but that they would come running over and say, "Hey, come and talk to me at China,"
Yeah,
because they don't know.
yeah,
And I get it. I guess we've learnt the hard way as well how quickly this can change our market.
yeah,
And we spoke about our concerns around. I know this is off topic, but
mm,
all these new brands, they don't seem to have a parts strategy. Even the
yes,
more successful brands.
yeah,
So that's a risk to consumers and dealers. They don't really recognise our laws around ACL and consumer law. They don't really have a skills strategy
mm,
for their technicians. So we sort of put all that on the table and said, make sure you feature that in your discussions up front.
mm. Wow. Okay. Okay. So, well, just back to the
Yeah.
NADA show. When you look back and perhaps talk to the colleagues from or the other people that went on the study tour, was there a practical takeaway that something that you could say to MTAQ members and others could say to their members? You need to be looking at this, or you need to be doing this, or were we already down that track a bit?
I think the diversification of our market means our dealerships are innovating every day.
Yeah.
They're pretty impressive businesses, and they're all in on it. And the consolidation of dealerships that's happening here is happening over there as well. So that's a takeaway. But my overall takeaway is whatever you think is a 5-year scenario is next year.
Yeah. Right.
So we need to, as an industry, we need to be sort of sharing our resources to try and identify winners and losers around this emerging tech, and certainly us across ourselves and VACC and some of the other MTAs are going to look at how we can collaborate.
Right.
And I'm sure dealerships are doing the same.
Yeah.
Because it's not brand specific; it's franchise business specific.
Okay. So just a sort of general question. I'll ask the same question around the Australian new car dealership industry as well. But when you're amongst the US dealers, how I guess given the political realities that they live in now, I mean, what's the feeling amongst them? Are they confident of the future? Are they cautious, nervous, anxious about what's happening? Or
They're confident that Americans like buying cars.
yeah,
So that's helpful. They know that clarity and continuity of policy settings are really important, particularly as you're looking at zero emission or low emission vehicles. They
Yeah.
understand the hybrid success in Australia, and they see that's a stepping stone for them as well.
yeah,
Maybe not their big trucks. And obviously their president is not, I'm not being political, but he's overturned some of their environmental laws, and even the stop start of engines and all that sort of stuff. That
Yeah.
that probably confuses the market more than helps.
yeah,
So I think they're all pretty confident about selling cars, but are less confident about what their transition looks like into lower emission,
yeah.
or whether their governments will even support it.
Yes, right. So, well, on that, I know we mentioned this briefly. This environmental protection ruling that the administration appears to have struck down that will directly affect emissions, potentially anyway. Well, was that no? I realise that happened after the show actually, but do you think that will become something that will affect the US industry? Would that then snowball, as we often say? What happens in the States affects everybody.
Yeah, maybe less so now because we've got a lot of vehicles from Asia and a lot of
Yeah.
vehicles from Europe, for example, and they're very focused on
Yeah.
lower emissions. I think there's a risk the US will miss out on some of this real emerging tech in vehicles. Like
Yeah.
technology diffusion in Chinese vehicles is probably leading the world.
Yeah.
Probably leading the world. So the US might miss out in that. So that's interesting. I think for Australia, there's lots of debate, and we've got views about NVES and where the point of compliance should be, and we think some of it's a bit too harsh. The settings, not the first year, but in the out years, you've got to let the Australian marketplace catch up. The
Yeah.
Australians didn't like getting told what vehicles they should drive, but they're embracing hybrids, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a great move. So I think the Australian journey to lower emissions is underway now. I don't think anyone suspects that what happens in the US will happen here politically. I think there was some of that rhetoric in the last election, and I think the electorate voted.
Yeah.
So I think that's gone. We just have to keep focusing on what we do. Certainly lobbying the Commonwealth Government about NVES,
Yeah.
because we think point of compliance should be at the point of sale, so you don't just flood dealers with cars, that they can't sell. That worries us.
Yep.
And we think some of the settings where, Toyota, for example, have done really well in that first year because of all their hybrids, but those hybrids won't comply as the settings get tighter. And
Yeah.
you sort of say, well, that doesn't seem, and I'm just using them as an example.
Sure.
I think our journey's underway now. It's about how do we sort of make sure it's manageable for our dealerships. We don't want, they're really important community businesses, so we don't want them under strain.
Well, my next question was going to be about NVES. So it was quite an eye-opening, some eye-opening results. I think some brands would be, well, probably expected it, but would be a bit disappointed about where things are heading down the track. And I was really interested just to get your take on the what is it, carbon credit trading. That feels like it could become a real big part of the future of the auto industry if this regulation continues.
Certainly, if you look at the pure EV brands, Tesla's an example, BYD's an example, especially the volume brands, right?
Yeah.
So they've got enormous number of credits, and that will continue.
Yeah.
And that positions them really nicely to be able to trade with the OEMs that can't produce. So some of those OEMs that are not, they're getting deficits.
Yep.
They don't have options.
Yeah.
They don't have options in the market. So yes, they will trade credits, or yes, they'll have to incur fines. And you would have to believe in the tooth fairy to think they're not passed on to consumers. Ultimately, they might be absorbed initially.
Yep.
They will be passed on. That's business. That's the marketplace. That's the economy. So, and you hear stories that, some of the brands are stockpiling cars here to maximise the credits. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it's true, again, you wonder if that's what we're trying to do here. I think government settings should be about supporting Australians make good decisions around their vehicles and trying to lower emissions, and not, like some real traditional brands are really struggling with compliance, be that Ford, Mazda,
You mentioned earlier, perhaps I just, if you wouldn't mind clarifying, the about a point of sale. Could you just clarify that?
Well, instead of the point of entry, so that's how, in other words, if a OEM brings 50 cars into a port, that's counted as in terms of the whole rates trading scheme, whereas those cars can be pushed onto dealers. We know that that's the model. So you've got a dealer suddenly in let's outback Queensland will give them 10 EVs. They're not going to be able to sell them, and they've had to finance them, and ultimately they'll have to give them away cheaply. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. It should be how many vehicles are being sold. So the point of compliance should be there. That way, that's genuine, right? And I appreciate there's strengths and weaknesses in every model, but certainly if I think about the important role of dealerships in communities, I think those businesses are worth protecting, and I would have thought that makes sense. Now, not every industry association will agree with that, but certainly ourselves, AADA, we strongly are of that view.
Yeah, and I guess that that sort of scenario distorts the market. Yeah,
it does. Particularly if there's some stockpiling going on.
Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap up, I did want to just touch on news that's a few weeks old now, but I just want to touch on new vehicle sales that we recorded in 2025. So banner year, record year, 1.24 million units sold. On the face of it, that seems positive, but challenges ahead. Could you perhaps, in your conversations with dealers, those challenges and decisions that they're going to have to make, can you elaborate on where you see things?
So the market, record sales, but when I talk to dealers, they just raise their eyebrows, right? Because it's a sale once it moves from a new car to being registered. So you drive past certain brands and there's lots of new cars that have registration plates on them.
Yes.
So I guess that means they're,
Yes.
they've sold, but they're still on the dealership.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities for those. So that's just a sign that some brands are struggling in the market. Looking forward, it's really about affordability. Of course, there is an affordability crisis. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of Australians who are struggling with inflation and interest rates. It does not look like that spiral upwards is finished. Like, it's hard to believe that it is. So that's that. Cars are a luxury. They're an essential item, but you might see Australians making decisions to keep their cars longer.
Yeah.
And that's what we say to government around emissions. It's fine to regulate new cars, but there's no plan to try and make sure all of us that have second-hand cars are keeping them serviced, keeping them clean, making sure that they're not emitting, particularly if you're holding your car for a long period of time.
Sure.
And some people will. Like, you know, some of those old Land Cruisers, they're never given up, right? If it's got a V8 in it, people are holding them. You know, that's fine. That's what Australians like. It's sort of cool, really. So the new car market, notwithstanding that, the big shock coming, I think there's already lots of Chinese brands here. There's lots more coming.
Yeah.
So they're talking about more than 100 brands being for sale in Australia.
Incredible.
I doubt there's that sort of diversification anywhere in the world. Now, we're still a limited population. What are we, 27 million? We sell about 1 million new cars allegedly every year. So that just means it's spread further. Like, obviously, there's some strong brands like Toyota, Ford and things. But BYD's shown what you can do. It's interesting. Like, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. Now, dealers have to get in bed with a Chinese manufacturer. Certainly, they need these options in their sales yards. But it's a competitive marketplace.
Is there an explanation, do you think, as to why so many brands seem to be attracted to Australia? It almost feels like we're a testing ground for.
I think there's two, right? So the positive way to look at it is we are an expensive market. So we pay high dollars for our cars, right? So they can see there's an opportunity to sell their cars at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
We seem to be a culture that embraces technology. So the new tech in these cars, including autonomous driving, is sort of coming. So I think that's the main pitch.
Yeah.
But they're locked. The Chinese brands are locked out of a lot of markets, so they've got to take them somewhere. So it's here.
Right.
Even, you know, and 1 million cars is still a lot. But you'd think, you know, I do wonder that we're an island, right? So I'm surprised that it's just carte blanche. I'm surprised that these brands can come here without an agreement on skills, without an agreement on parts supply, and without an agreement on some type of security around the ACL.
Yeah.
Because if these brands come here, this is Rod Camm speculation. And in 2 years' time, they haven't sold anywhere near cars they want to. There's a high risk they'll go.
Yeah.
And dealers will be left with a car they can't repair potentially, and more importantly, consumers are left with something. So we just think there should be some better upfront protections.
Yeah.
Both for our dealers and for Australian consumers.
Okay. As always, this industry just always appears to be evolving and changing all the time. It's hard to keep up.
It's hard to keep up, but what a fantastic industry.
It
there's
is.
no other industry you'd want to be in, I don't reckon. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, Rod, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing some insights. It's always great to talk to you. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise, any questions, you know where to find me. Thanks, mate.
Okay. Cheers.
Thanks, Jonathan.